Nintendo has been in the video game industry for a very long time, and within that time, Nintendo has created a lot of unique experiences for each of their home consoles. These consoles have always managed to bring something new to the table, making things that seem impossible or unimaginable into reality. And the newest entry in a long line of Nintendo consoles has recently been revealed, the Nintendo Switch. But as we look forward to the Nintendo Switch, I'll be taking a look back at Nintendo's previous home consoles, and I'm going to be ranking them in my own personal order of least favorite to most favorite. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I'm excluding the Virtual Boy from this list because it's clearly in its own league of godliness that no other console can even touch. Before I get started, I just want to give a shout out to the one and only Red Knight of Active Gamer Life. He hosted a podcast approximately a year ago of this very topic, which is what inspired me to do this video. I just decided to wait until after the reveal of the Nintendo Switch because I figured it would be a great time to do this. I'll also leave a link to his channel so you can check it out, and I definitely recommend you would do so, especially if you want a YouTuber who isn't afraid to speak his mind about the gaming industry, mostly regarding Nintendo. It all around just makes a lot of sense. Anyway, let's begin. This should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. This list of least favorite to most favorite Nintendo consoles is merely my opinion, nothing more, nothing less. The Nintendo Entertainment System is what placed Nintendo on the map as an industry leader for video games. A number of absolutely iconic games were released on this console, such as Mega Man, Castlevania, Metroid, The Legend of Zelda, and the game that led the charge and changed the industry forever, the all-time classic Super Mario Bros. So why is this my least favorite Nintendo home console? Well, it's a bit before my time. I have played on this console a number of times growing up. When I lived with my aunt and cousin, he had an NES and I played it quite a bit. I played Super Mario Bros., Duck Hunt, and even World Class Track Meet, but that's about it. My experiences with other NES games are either versions released on later consoles or an Ultimate NES remix. I respect what this console is and really appreciate what it's done for the video game industry, but I just don't have much of a personal attachment to it at all. But since Nintendo has re-released this in the form of the NES Classic Edition, I have the chance to maybe discover a new appreciation for it. The Nintendo GameCube is one of Nintendo's less prosperous consoles in terms of sales numbers, but people look back on it with the utmost respect and love nowadays. This console is one of the kings of hidden gem games. Every time I see people talking about this thing, I end up learning about these apparently phenomenal games I've never heard of before. My overall thoughts on the GameCube is, well, honestly I never really loved this console the same way many gamers seem to love it. I like it fine enough, and I'll acknowledge that there are many beloved games on there that I've never played, but that's the thing, I've never played them. Or in some cases, never heard of them for the longest time. My attachment to a console depends almost entirely on the games I've played on it, and the memories I have with those games. Compared to most Nintendo consoles, the GameCube just isn't on that same level. There are some GameCube games I absolutely love, but they don't compare to a lot of games on other consoles with a few exceptions. And only a handful of them could scratch certain itches. Maybe it's my fault for being so closed-minded as a young teenager when I got the GameCube, but I mostly see it as a console that had new entries of certain series that were so heavily departed from what I loved that I couldn't be bothered to even try them. And because of that, for the most part, I didn't want to play anything other than games that resembled my favorite experiences on previous hardware. It wasn't until after the GameCube's lifespan that I became a bit more open-minded to trying other games that it offered. Even though I felt there was something missing for me with the GameCube, I did get a few surprise hits out of it, and sometimes that's good enough. If there was ever a Nintendo console I was initially very uninterested in, it was the Nintendo 64. A lot of people were being blown away by it because of games like Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, allowing players to move around in the three-dimensional space. But I didn't care for this console one bit for a long time. I hated the concept of games like Super Mario 64 and Donkey Kong 64. These games are big departures from previous installments, and because of that I didn't feel even a little compelled to try them out. The only reason why I eventually started playing on the N64 was because of my brother, since he wanted to play Mario Party 2. He got the N64 and Mario Party 2 for his 11th birthday, and he started playing it. It looked like fun to me, so I started playing it, and much to my surprise, I loved it. I was still pretty closed-minded with games though. When I eventually tried Super Mario 64 and Donkey Kong 64, I really could not get into them. They weren't like the 2D games, so I still didn't like them. Though I will admit I did get a kick out of Donkey Kong 64's multiplayer mode. Even commercials for games like Pokemon Puzzle League and Super Smash Bros. Actually made me think those games were stupid. Yes, I actually hated the beloved Super Smash Bros. Commercial, because I remember the commercial sort of encouraging the idea of beating up Yoshi. I didn't want to beat up Yoshi, he was too adorable, so I thought the game was stupid because of that commercial. People say that Nintendo's advertising was brilliant back then, yet not one of their commercials were the reason I ever got any of their games. My brother, on the other hand, wanted to play both of these games because of these commercials, and once again, I ended up really loving both of these games. Super Smash Bros. Was an absolute blast, introducing a distinctive style for fighting games and starring Nintendo's most iconic characters of its time. And to this day, Pokemon Puzzle League is my favorite N64 game, and one of my top 10 favorite video games of all time. Suffice it to say, I really underestimated the Nintendo 64, and I look back on it very fondly now. While I still hated the idea of Mario and Donkey Kong being focused on 3D collectathons and thus didn't like 3D collectathons for a long time, I found a lot of love on this console with some other games. You'd think this would have made me more open-minded for trying more on the GameCube, but it didn't. Can't say for sure why, but it might have to do with the nostalgia for this console. Super Nintendo Entertainment System. This is many people's favorite Nintendo console or favorite video game console, period. While it isn't my absolute favorite, oh boy do I have a lot of love for this thing. This was a console I grew up with and spent maybe 10 years of my life playing. Often the worship of this console is rooted to not only Nintendo's games, but the massive number of third-party games. But once again, I didn't play a lot of those games. In fact, I had fewer games on the SNES than I did on the N64 or the GameCube. But those games really shaped my taste for video games, namely 2D platformers. Super Mario World was the very first video game I remember playing, and the very first one I ever beat. I played Yoshi's Island, the original 3 Donkey Kong Country games, and I even discovered a few of the older Mario games through Super Mario All-Stars. All of these games, these 2D platformers, are what made me a gamer today, and why I'm a Nintendo fan to this day. I did play a few third-party games like the Mortal Kombat series. I played Super Mario RPG, which was third-party developed, and a couple of licensed games. But honestly, with some exceptions, I never enjoyed them as much as those Nintendo-made 2D platformers. Like with the GameCube, there was a lot I missed out on, even more so with the SNES. But I still have tons of memories with the few games that I had for it. I love the Super Nintendo, but I don't worship it the same way most gamers do. Even so, for the longest time, I really wanted a home console that brought back those same type of 2D platforms I loved so much on the SNES. The N64 and GameCube didn't do that, but another one finally did. The Wii is currently Nintendo's best-selling home console, introducing a very different type of controller that was capable of motion controls and point-and-click gameplay. I was excited about the Wii and what it could be capable of when I saw it in gaming magazines or online. And that's when I saw E3 2006, the first E3 I really watched. And I was pretty interested in what Nintendo had to show. This is where I saw Wii Sports, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, and Super Mario Galaxy. While everyone was being blown away by Super Mario Galaxy in particular, I would say I was, at the very least, thoroughly impressed by it. It was the big reason why I wanted the Wii. Wii Sports looked fun, and heck, even Twilight Princess was interesting to me, even though I wasn't a Zelda fan at the time. Maybe it was because I finally got a new 2D Mario game in the form of New Super Mario Bros., but I was a bit more open to trying new games for the Wii. And the Wii did not disappoint me at all. While people love to complain about the Wii and how Nintendo has somehow betrayed gamers with it and a bunch of other dumb things I don't want to get into right now, I really do love the Wii. I got some new experiences that surprised me as to how much fun they are, like Super Mario Galaxy. It felt so fresh and fun using the Wii remote to play the game, and it had a really majestic presentation that's never been seen in a Mario game before. But the thing that made me so happy with the Wii was when I started seeing 2009 onwards. New Super Mario Bros. Got a successor in the form of New Super Mario Bros. Wii. In 2010, Donkey Kong Country returned. In 2011, so did Kirby, back to Dreamland. The 2D platformers were making a resurgence, and on a home console no less. The SNES was defined by platformers in my eyes, and to see it all finally coming back in the Wii era made me ecstatic. I even got into Zelda games by then, and I fell in love with Twilight Princess and really enjoyed Skyward Sword. I got the chance to experience older Kirby games in Kirby's Dream Collection. I loved Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and seeing Mario and Sonic fight each other was so surreal. So was seeing them compete against each other in the Olympics. 2010 was one of my favorite gaming years, having Sonic Colors plus Donkey Kong Country Returns plus Super Mario Galaxy 2 all in one year was just incredible. And let's not forget how the Wii could play older games from not only Nintendo's older consoles, but even other consoles like the Sega Genesis and TurboGrafx-16. And on top of that was still able to play GameCube games through backwards compatibility. Because it brought back my favorite games as a child, had great new experiences for me, the Virtual Console to experience older games including non-Nintendo console games, and the backwards compatibility to GameCube games. The Wii, I think, by default is vastly superior to the GameCube. But as you can see, there is one console left that I haven't mentioned yet, and it is my favorite Nintendo console. That's right, this is my favorite Nintendo console. So many people are determined to hate this thing, saying things like you somehow aren't a Nintendo fan if you're a Wii U fan, because I really don't know, it makes no sense whatsoever. Either way, I know I'm a Nintendo fan. I've been playing Nintendo games since I was a toddler, and I just shared my experiences of all the previous Nintendo consoles, and yet the Wii U is my favorite one of them all. So why is it my favorite? Well, one of the big reasons is its main controller, the Wii U gamepad. I love this thing just because of how extremely versatile it is. It still has the traditional buttons, directional pad, and analog sticks, but it also has some of the motion control capabilities of the Wii remote, albeit a little bit clunkier since the gamepad doesn't have the same comfortable grip as the Wii remote. It provides a second screen with interactive touch technology for a home console, like the DS family of hardware, but it takes it even further by doing things the DS-named hardware couldn't do, namely playing your home games on basically a bigger handheld screen. This means that people can walk away from the television and continue to play games somewhere else as long as it was close enough to the console.
The toilet.
You can play Wii U and Wii games on the gamepad while someone else is using the television. While I play something on the Wii with the television, my brother can play something on the Wii U just by using the gamepad at the same time. Because of this innovation, you don't even need a television to play almost all of the Wii U's library of games. That's how amazing this controller is. A lot of games you can think of can be played just as well, if not even better, with this controller. In fact, I refuse to play The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker and The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess without the gamepad just because of how much better it makes both of those games. And I loved both of those games beforehand. But the biggest reason why this is my favorite console is because of its games. I've never been so enchanted with a home console's library. It's not a massive library by any stretch of the imagination, but these games, it's definitely a matter of quality over quantity. New Super Mario Bros. U is one of the best games in the entire Mario series, and it totally deserves to be put on the same pedestal that Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World are often placed. I think Super Mario 3D World is the best Mario game period, because it has just about all the best elements of 2D and 3D Mario games, along with some great new elements. It also happens to be my favorite Wii U game and my second favorite video game of all time. I constantly go back and forth for whether Donkey Kong Country 2 or Tropical Freeze is the best game in the Donkey Kong Country series. Tropical Freeze is a true masterpiece of a side-scrolling platformer, and deserved to do so much better than it did in both sales and critical reception. Wind Waker is my favorite Zelda game, more specifically my third favorite video game of all time. It was made even better on the Wii U. While I haven't played it yet, I'm probably going to think that Yoshi's Woolly World is the best Yoshi game as well. Mario Kart 8 I definitely think is the best Mario Kart game, and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U is easily the best Smash Bros. Game, with its incredibly addictive gameplay and mind-blowing roster of characters. Although I have to take back what I said about not wanting to beat up Yoshi now, since he's the most irritating thing in the world in this game, and nothing makes me happier than utterly destroying him. I honestly think this console has the best iterations of longtime Nintendo franchises, and the new and different experiences on the Wii U are no slouches either. Splatoon is a refreshing and innovative game. If this is coming from someone who's only played the single-player campaign. Bayonetta is a very good game, but Bayonetta 2 is such a crazy, epic fun sequel, and one of my favorite games period. Hyrule Warriors lets me play as my favorite Zelda characters in ways I wouldn't have even imagined. Pokken Tournament does the same thing with a few of my favorite Pokemon. I even found games I wasn't expecting to enjoy as much as I did, or even found them to be very underrated. I've never had more than 20 to 25 games for any home console, so the Wii U's skimpier library doesn't bother me. I've never been able to play video games online, so the lack of certain features on the Wii U has no effect on me whatsoever. I'm not saying those aren't important things, because for a lot of people they clearly are, but for me, it's always been about the games first and foremost. And the Wii U has some of the absolute best games I've ever played in my entire life. The Wii U is my favorite Nintendo console. And all the praise in the world for the Super Nintendo is never, and I mean never, going to change that. But you know what could change that? Or should I say, switch that? So, there you have it. That's my list of least favorite to most favorite Nintendo home consoles. Feel free to leave your list of favorite Nintendo consoles in the comments. And remember, it's all a matter of personal opinion, as is my list. Heck, maybe your list is the inverse of mine. Anyway, this has been Espionic, and I'll see you all some other time.